Hello everybody, it's Jessica. I'm here to talk to you about music. This week I'm going to be talking about Amanda Palmer's TED Talk. So Amanda Palmer, she fronted the Dresden Dolls for years and now she has a pretty successful solo project. A week ago she gave a TED Talk called The Art of Asking, and TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and it's just this conference thing. Like, it's just a bunch of conferences. You can stream it live or you can watch it later for free online or on Netflix, and it's really interesting. And if you've never seen any TED Talks, I would highly suggest checking it out, even, not related to the specific one, because there's just some really cool stuff going on out there that, a lot of people don't hear about. So check out TED Talks. But Palmer's talk was called The Art of Asking, and it was basically just a summary of her career as an artist and as a musician and how she does things a little differently than the average musician, by asking her fans for help rather than relying on, the business side of the music industry to get her work out there. And it's some really interesting stuff. So she talks about asking for help in multiple ways. She will ask for places to sleep at night, food for backstage before shows, rehearsal spaces, and most famously, her Kickstarter campaign for her last album, Theater is Evil, and also her crowdsourcing of musicians for the tour supporting that album. So she talks about how Twitter has made this whole idea of asking for help really easy. So she'll just, throw a tweet out there like, hey, I'm in Chicago and I need a piano to practice on. And someone will respond and be like, okay, this is my address, come hang out and practice on my piano. And that's an actual example she used. She just went to someone's house, played their piano, and hung out. That's pretty crazy by normal standards, but the way she explains it, it makes a lot of sense, is that it's supposed to be an equal relationship between the fan and the artist, and in this relationship, both benefit equally. The fan gets to hang out with Amanda Palmer, and Amanda Palmer has a piano to practice on for free. So that's a really interesting way to go about the music industry, just by asking your fans for help. Most famously, her Kickstarter campaign for Theater is Evil. She set a goal of $25,000 and she ended up raising $1.2 million, which was the most successful Kickstarter campaign for a music project to date. So that was a really big deal and people were really excited about it. Obviously, because at the time she already had a pretty big fan following from the Dresden Dolls, from when she was on a major label, she's going to have a much easier time having a successful Kickstarter campaign than the average NIU student who played a show at Otto's with his friends, but nonetheless, it's still a really cool idea and it's really innovative and forward-thinking, and I think that it can definitely catch on. And then after her successful Kickstarter campaign, she went on tour and she crowdsourced musicians from each city. So if you were a Chicago resident and you knew she was coming to play in Chicago, you could apply to play in her band. And Northern Star fun fact, our writer last semester, Shelby Devitt, actually played trombone with Amanda Palmer and the Grand Theft Orchestra in her Chicago and Milwaukee shows. And another fun fact, I was at the Chicago show and it was really good, but I digress. So there was a lot of controversy over this because she wasn't paying these musicians at first, and people were saying, you had this really successful Kickstarter campaign, you raised $1.2 million, why can't you pay these musicians? Now you're just being greedy, now you're just using your fans, and it's not that give and take relationship anymore, you're taking too much. And while I personally don't feel that way, as a musician myself, if I could go on stage and play saxophone with Amanda Palmer and, see the show from backstage, I wouldn't need any monetary compensation. I would be cool with just being able to play with her as a fan. But people don't think that way if they're not huge fans, and, some people just have different mindsets. regardless, Palmer started paying her crowdsourced musicians. Um, so, I mean, that's fine. That's cool. Money's cool. But honestly, I think the coolest part about it is the fact that a fan had the opportunity to play with one of their favorite bands. That's something that, money can't buy, if you ask me. So, overall, the talk just, covers all of this and talks about how it's sometimes hard for musicians to grasp the idea of asking for help from fans, because there's this idea that there's a lot of greed involved with it, like has been demonstrated with the controversy. But she gives a very convincing argument that it's not about greed, it's about the artist and the fan interacting. And if the artist respects that and gives a quality product in return for the fan's help, then it's really quite a beautiful business model, and it gives a lot of freedom to everyone involved. So definitely check it out because it's got some really interesting, unique ideas in it, and I honestly think that it could catch on and it could be the future of the way musicians create their work. And I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea, and it gives a lot of freedom to the artist, which is who I'm most concerned with. So give it a look. And check out other TED Talks too, because it's really interesting stuff. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.